Hello. Oh my goodness. Am I live? Oh, good. I hope I'm live. Folks, if you can hear me or see me, please let me know. And for those of you who can, if you can, hello out there. How are you doing? It's so great to be back. It's another beautiful Wednesday here in Oshawa. I hope it's beautiful where you're at as well. It's a lovely, crisp kind of October, or not October, November. We're in November. How did that happen? Time is flying, and hopefully it's flying in a good way. But I'm glad to be here. Welcome to another live stream pop-up art studio. This is a time where we connect, we create together, we chat, we catch up, we share what projects we're working on, we share our inspiration, any troubles or struggles we might be having with our creative journeys, and sometimes with our life journeys as well, because of course, who we are and how we are informs what we create. It shapes what we create as well. So all of that is welcome today. So if you haven't participated in a live stream pop-up art studio before, here's what you need to know. All you got to do is watch or listen. And you don't even really have to do that. Sometimes people like having us on in the background, picking up things and dipping in to listen to specific things when they catch their ear. That's okay. If that's what makes you feel good, it helps inspire you today, then that's all right. That's fine. You do you. Now for other folks, you might want to make art along with me. You might want to participate in the chat and talk to other community members who are out there and talk to me. So if you have any questions or thoughts or ideas or anything at all, feel free to put them in the chat. And yeah, I'll see them and I'll answer them. And Facebook has rearranged some of their settings, so I'm going to do my best to keep up with it today. But as always, you're welcome to connect with me and throw something in the comment section. Now, after the live stream is finished, so that would be after 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, if you watch, and you're welcome to watch once it's been archived, you're a part of our community too, folks. If you put in a comment and I don't respond right away, chances are it might be after the live stream. So have some patience, and if it's something that you're really excited or need to have a response on right away, please, send me an email at info@livingroomcommunityartstudio.org. Okay? That's a good way to get a hold of me. Still might take me some time to respond, but, I'm there. I'm there for you. But again, please say hi if you're watching or listening. Let me know that I'm coming across okay. And yeah, let's make some art together. I know that so much is happening out there in the world right now. Ah, Momo. Hello, Momo. It's good to see you. We're all getting back to some kind of normal. We're being encouraged to get back to some kind of normal. We can go out there, we can make art in some of the art hives in person again. Hey, Liz. Nice to see you, Alyssa. There's so many exciting ways that are opening up for us to move through the world again. And so if you're out there and you're doing those things and you can't commit to staying the whole hour and a half, that's okay too. It's lovely just to see you or hear you through a comment to know that folks are out there doing their thing and doing it as well as they can. Of course, as well, along with that, we're still doing our online programming. We'll be doing that till the end of the year. So let us know what you like. Let us know what you want to see more of before that end of year comes. We're still, we're allowed to shake things up if we want to create things that work for you and where you're at right now. Yeah, we can do that. That's the really good thing about being an art hive and about being, I guess, small, right? It's the dream big, start small mentality. When you're smaller and a little more independent, you can be more spontaneous and you can have a little bit more fun and be a little more responsive to the community. So if you have ideas or thoughts out there, let me know. And in fact, Momo popping up in the comments there just reminded me, tomorrow there's this really cool, presentation or workshop happening through the Creative Engage, let me see if I can get this right, the Create Engage Living Lab. Is that right? If you're still out there, Momo, let me know. I tried sharing the event with folks but I don't know if it popped up on our page yet. So please go to that page and check it out. I think the workshop is about creative writing, but also crossing over into life, our lived experience and how we use who we are and where we are, what's in us to create, to express ourselves, to tell our stories, to inform our stories, and how we do that. It's not just about what we write, it's how we write it and how that writing feeds back into our own lives to support us. So again, that event looks super awesome, and that's tomorrow. That's Thursday, November 11th. I think it's at around 4 p.m., but definitely check out their event page at Engage Living Lab, Creative Engage Living Lab. Oh, I'm bad at this. I'll see if I can share the post again, see if it'll let me after this live stream so folks can tune in tomorrow and learn from some of the amazing speakers that they have there and use one another in community as a resource. Ah, yes, a roundtable on creative writing, Momo says. And all that you said, oh, it's at 2:30 p.m. 2:30 p.m. So thank you. Thank you for correcting me there. That's awesome. Now, what else do we have to share today before I just jump in? Mobile Art Hive is getting out there in the community very, very soon. So I wanted to give a mini update to folks who are tuning into this. That's going to be out in the community tomorrow at Trent University, Durham. We're doing some events on their campus for the students there. And after that, we're going to be connecting with other folks out there to see who would like to host us. We're going to ease into this very gently, but we are so excited to connect with folks through the Mobile Art Hive. If you have an idea of where you'd like us to go, or maybe you work with an organization that could host us in their parking lot or by the curbside, send us an email and hook us up, because right now it's kind of like practicing and learning about what this project looks like right now, what the Mobile Art Hive is, how we can use it to engage with community. Everything up to this point has kind of been theoretical. It's been a dream, a vision that we've had. It's becoming very real now, and will have a life of its own, its own art piece, its own work in progress that just keeps evolving with the community. I know. Thank you so much. Momo saying great news about the Mobile Art Hive. I know. It's lovely. It's a little, all the good things. It's a little scary. It's a little exciting. It's a little overwhelming. It's a little fun. All of the good things rolled up into one. And I think isn't that funny? I think one of our community members, Laura Brown, was saying that before. That was one of the taglines that I think Laura and Peter came up with for the Mobile Art Hive. It was all the good things in all the good places. So we're going to learn about this project as we move forward. And tomorrow, or Friday rather, that'll be the first real day of having it out there. So wish me luck, folks. But again, the virtual programming will still continue. And it gives me an opportunity to revisit the safe space stuff. And I know I've been talking a whole lot, but I want to touch base about a couple of things that have to do with virtual programming that we also experienced in the actual studio space. But since we will be continuing to do some things online to the new year and, carrying a few things over into 2022, I want to remind folks that the studio is the studio because of you. And when we had the physical studio space, and when people came into that space, we would welcome them, we would greet them, we would give them the spiel. Some of you folks out there probably could recite that in your sleep by now. And part of that involved safety and accountability and negotiating consent with other creators you were sharing space with. And just the simple rule of when in doubt, ask. Now we've moved online and we've been really, really lucky throughout this whole process that we haven't had a lot of creepy people out there. We haven't had a lot of trolls. There haven't been a lot of people Zoom bombing. But every once in a while, those things will happen, right? Ah, lovely. Oh, exciting. Okay. Oh, yes, lovely. Okay, we'll get back to that too, Momo. I'm just seeing comments and getting excited about everything I see in the chat. So I wanted to reconnect what we did in the physical studio space back to what's happening online, to do with people who are intentionally perhaps trying to disrupt and cause harm, or perhaps unintentionally creating moments of disruption and hurt in the group. I'd like to remind everyone, just the same as here, I'm accountable. So if I say anything or do anything that makes you feel strange or weird or uncomfortable, I want to encourage you and invite you to let me know. You can do that in the comments sections if it's a live stream. You can send me an email. You can message us on Facebook. Please let me know whenever those things happen. And I want you to know that you can do the same thing if anyone else causes those feelings within you as well. It's not always easy to do, but I think it's important that we try our best to recognize the feelings that we have inside of ourselves, when something is happening, or at least give ourselves time to process that stuff and name it somehow. And if we can catch those things in the moment while they're happening, while they're still in the air, we can work with them, we can address them. And if people say something in a Zoom group and chat to you, like, for example, they might message you and say, "Show me your boobs." Yeah, no, right? That's an intentional piece of harm right there, and they're going to be kicked out of the group. That's what happens. We don't have the same ability to follow them up afterwards, right? But what we can do is have a conversation with one another about how that made us feel, how things like that in general in the world impact us, and what we can do together as a community to address those issues and to move forward, to advocate for ourselves and one another. You don't have to deal with that stuff on your own, okay? And speaking out about it, speaking up for yourself, even if you can't do it in the moment, check in with us afterwards. Let us know so we can help make that difference and be more supportive to one another in this community. Because that's exactly what we would do in the studio when people did strange things, ugly things, right? We could have conversations about it and learn about why they were doing that and if they were trying to hurt us. Usually, but 99% of the time, people weren't, right? In those cases, it gave us an opportunity to find out what they really wanted to achieve and help them move towards that goal. So if telling a sexist joke was a way that they were trying to make friends, we could let them know that they were not having the impact that they wanted. And we could work towards addressing that and maybe helping them learn how to, or move towards making friends in a healthier way. Or, you know what? Letting them know that the studio space was not for them and that they were not allowed to be that way. They were not going to be able to do that and spread that harm around the studio space without there being consequences of some kind. If people are willing to work on that, that's great. But when they're not, in cases like this, and yes, Momo says, "Oh my, that is horrible. I am so, so sorry if that happened to someone." It did, right? And I think it happened to more than one person in the Zoom. And Caitlin did an amazing job at handling it. But one thing I think that happens is sometimes we feel that it might be just happening to us, and we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to make anyone feel embarrassed. We don't want to disrupt things in order to create or to make space for positive change, because sometimes on the way to that change, things can be uncomfortable and messy. And I think a lot of us don't want to be the person who makes the mess. Well, I'm here to give you permission. Let's make messes, right? And we can also use art to address those things too. Before things get to the place we want them to be, it is going to be a little messy. It is going to feel disrupted and awkward, and we're going to have lots of different thoughts and feelings about it. But art hives provide opportunities for people to have conversations about that. And, if someone, for whatever reason, didn't think that, maybe, I don't think so in this case, but if they didn't, if they thought that, let's say, they were actually doing something that was pro-social or positive, we can let them know that they're not. But in this case, I don't think that was the case. And so they're out. They are no longer welcome in our space. But in case it happens again, because this is life and this is community and it's not always puppies and rainbows, if or when that happens again, let's see what we can do about it. Let's use one another as resources to make sure it doesn't happen again, and that we can remind one another we're there for one another, and we can move past it, through it, around it, whatever it might be, but we can do that together. Don't feel like you have to be on your own. Whew, okay, that's enough of that right now. But again, all that applies to here too. And the other thing I suppose I should say to remind folks of is be kind to yourself today, right? We do a lot of heavy lifting over the week, so like in any other time, in any other Art Hive space, I encourage you to be kind to yourself, to be supportive of yourself, as well as the folks that surround you in your creative space, right? It's not always easy, but if you need help, we're here and we can let you know. And I think today we have someone. I'm just going to switch over and start working on a warm up here while we do. Oh yeah, okay, there we go. Oh no, come back. Live stream changing in front of my eyes. I am going to move over to start doing a warm up to kind of shake out some of these things that I'm feeling, and I'm going to get creating and making. Let's see what I can do here. But I'd also like to introduce, we have someone new working with the LivingRoom Community Art Studio. I'm so excited that they're here. Alicia is out there. Alicia, if you want to say hi in the chat, you can do so. Someone who's helping us with some behind the scenes stuff, some administration stuff, figuring out how to create new paths for the studio as we're transitioning from, what we used to be into what we are today. I'm so excited that they're here, so grateful that they're here. So please feel free to say hi to them as well. It's kind of introducing them into a whole different way of working with community through the Art Hive things. And just so grateful that they're here. And there we are. Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you. All right. So what am I doing here? I don't know about you, but I think I can do some scribbling. I'm going to experiment with some stuff. Usually I scribble with oil pastels, but today I think I'm going to use some watercolor crayons and get a bit messy, right? Let's make some of that mess and let out some of that stuff. And in preparation for tomorrow's theme at Trent Durham, actually, the theme for the activity we're going to do is, hey, Bee! Haha, nice to see you here, Bee. The theme tomorrow is let the art hold the hard stuff. So never a bad thing to remember, that art doesn't have to be beautiful, that art doesn't have to have a specific meaning before we begin. It can be spontaneous. We can discover things as we go. And sometimes it can be just about making a mess. And I do want to revisit that piece from Momo as well. So Momo's saying, yes, a small group of art hivers visited the Monday night. And it was lovely. We're planning to come back next week if all works well. Loved it, Momo says. So are you talking about, was that the Monday Night Wellness group with Kat V? That's fantastic. Oh, that makes me so happy to hear that. Kat and Caitlin host that group. They take turns, and then sometimes, I think once a month, they host it together, which is always a super fun time when the two of those folks get together. Silly and weird and wonderful and profound and elegant and moving. Yeah, is lovely. I'm really lucky that I have such fantastic people walking alongside the living room. But that's so good to hear, Momo. It's always good to get feedback, especially, Momo says, yep, that one. Especially when you're not quite sure. Like for me, I'm not always able to make those groups, especially these days, just with, hustling to get everything ready for the Mobile Art Hive. So that is very nice to see and good to hear. And Alyssa checking in saying, how is everybody today? That's a good question. Sometimes I feel like I don't know what I'm feeling. And sometimes I just need to take a breath and ask myself that question. At least if I can start somewhere. But in this case, I'm just going to let it out on paper. And then after I let it out, take some time to look at it then and reflect on it then. And again, it's not always, I'm letting the art hold the hard stuff, but I'm not necessarily, it's just a passing thing, right? Letting it flow through me. Hey, Dan, how's it going? Dan checking in, saying hi. I have to thank Dan for just involving me. Like the living room did a fantastic project with Ontario Tech U. We were so lucky to be one of the organizations invited to do it. And I'm not sure, how much I can say here, but we were invited to present with Dan just about our experience and how extraordinary that partnership was with Ontario Tech U. I love partnering with post-secondary institutions, learning institutions, schools in general, because I think there's this natural curiosity embedded in everything they do. Even sometimes when there's, part of really giant systems that don't necessarily have, the time to slow down and engage as intimately or as authentically as they might like. But I've never, there's always people, and Dan, you're one of those people that you take the time. You take the time to get to know your community, to learn about what's needed out there, and to learn how to support it, right? And then there's, oh, Marie, hello, how are you? Hi. Now, have I met, no, this is such a strange thing because I feel so often like I know people who participate in these live streams, and I feel like, have I met you before? Sometimes I haven't, and I do look forward to the day where I get a chance to meet everyone. And unfortunately for Montreal, my friends, we won't be able to take the mobile art hive out of Ontario for another year. It's an insurance thing, but once that year is finished, we're going to check in and rearrange some things and have some cross-province adventures. That's my hope anyways, fingers crossed. And B saying yes, so just on that topic of feelings, B saying, yeah, today is a tired day for me. I have lots of therapy homework to do as well as adulting to do. Yeah, adulting. Adulting is one of those things. How easy it is to let adulting slide. Not even slide, because I think sliding seems like it's a lazy thing. Like, oh, I'm just letting it go. Sometimes the other pressures there are just pushing in on you from all sides, and you don't have space. You don't have space. I feel like my brain right now, and it's in a pleasant way. There's a sense of, it's kind of like Tetris. Tetris at the stage, you know, when you're doing really well and you're on top of it and all the pieces are fitting together, and then suddenly they start coming faster and faster and you're doing okay, and then you realize that that piece over there is not fitting, and by the time you go into the next, yeah, you get where I'm going, right? That's sort of my brain right now. It's not always going to be like that, but I think it's healthy to acknowledge it, and I know I'm not alone in that. I think everyone has their Tetris moments. And Dan saying, thanks so much, Mary. Oh, reflect back. I mean, accept. Sorry. I will take some of that, because I think when partnerships really work, it's something to do on both sides. There's something that resonates there, something that just sparks off new and exciting conversations and relationships. And with Dan at Ontario Tech U and your fabulous team as well, there's so much potential there. And I can't wait to see what happens in the future. I have no real reason to believe this other than like the fantastic relationships that you've helped us build there, and how responsive you've been. But I feel like something exciting will eventually happen, and maybe one day it will be something like Concordia, where you know there's partnerships with the universities and the art hives, and they feed back into one another. But who knows? Let's see, and Marie saying, no, I am in New Brunswick. Wonderful. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I love sometimes how we have this sort of cross-country thing going on. It's so amazing. Oh, and Momo, is that, there's just a lovely big emoji there. Sad, weepy eyes. Is that because we can't come to Quebec this year? I know. I felt the same way, but you know what's a complicated thing? Insuring a converted vehicle. And there's actually a few other folks out there I've been talking to who are starting their own mobile art hives as well, with step vans and cool things like that. If you're watching, hi Kim. And it's one of the things, at least here in Ontario, there's been a huge learning curve about. And it's changing every day because of the pandemic and the nature of things. And I was prepared to reach out and, you know, get some insurance sponsorship and things like that. And you know what, I still might. But we have a fabulous broker who's helped figure it all out. And I'm much more hopeful now. But part of those conditions is we can't, got to stay in Ontario just for this year. And Momo's saying, oh yeah, reacting to not coming to Quebec this year. I'll do my best. I'll do my best. And if we can change that before the end, we'll figure it out. That's my dream, is that Art Hive Network comes together and we create some kind of Canada Arts Council grant as a massive umbrella organization, and we have Hive exchanges and partnerships and residencies, switching up artists and helping them move for maybe little micro residencies. Oh, there's a lot there. Of course, folks, if you've been watching these live streams for a while, you know how when I take the dream big thing very seriously all over. But yeah, the start small thing I sometimes have a difficult time with. And Alicia is saying, Momo, love that you're taking that meditative practice into your daily life. We hardly ever ask ourselves how the body feels, and taking that time can really be comforting and help you assess your needs. Oh, lovely. And B, giving a follow-up on lots of bureaucratic nonsense for my adulting for the next little while. Bah. Oh, B, I can hear you say that. I hear your voice. Yeah. Adulting. But it's, I'm hoping that there's elements of it that feel good. Like that feel really good. Like eating granola or something, like when you're taking care of yourself in a way that isn't necessarily about, doesn't necessarily chase down the same pleasure you might if you had a magic wand. But at the end of the day, I'm hoping that it's giving you something really beautiful to hold on to, and that sense of satisfaction in doing what you can do to, live the life that you are deserve, that is worth you because you're fabulous. All right, what have I got here? And Dan saying, me too. This is hopefully about big dreams and ambitions and partnerships, maybe. Oh, yeah. And Alicia saying, to B, I completely empathize with that tired feeling. Try and take each task one step at a time. Listen to your body to see what it needs to stay motivated or energized in. Absolutely. And B's all over that. Yep, that is why I'm taking time for art, B says. Woohoo! That's me cheering. And I might be a little bit silly today because when I'm tired, I get silly. Well, I get silly and grumpy alternatively. So you might see, I might just go back and forth and back and forth. It might be an interesting afternoon, folks. But I'm glad if you're out there and you're making art for you today, go for it. If you're making art to get the feelings out, to let the art hold the hard stuff, that's awesome. Maybe you're making art for practical reasons, like name tags or labels for things. Maybe you're making some gifts. Holiday season is approaching. Maybe I don't know, there's lots of things that are creative. Maybe you're cooking some dinner for yourself, baking some cookies. Maybe, I don't know, organizing your space so that you can feel the declutter around you perhaps might help inside your brain declutter. Maybe that's what I need to do. Looking around this space right now, it might help. It might help. That little bit of adulting, I'm going to put a pin in that and revisit that next week. I'm going to make that decision right there. And Marie saying that's a cool idea. So about the art hives, traveling, touring, exchanging residencies and things like that. Yeah. I feel like, there's lots of amazing ideas. As the tea towel that Rachel showed in one of the presentations about art hives, one of my favorites, so much, I loved it so much that I commissioned one from Kelly of Scrapulous here. It says, everybody wants a revolution, but nobody wants to do the dishes. And that idea, it's just a lovely little way of encapsulating so much of everything. But I think also reflects on there's always so many amazing ideas. But you know what? We'll take our time and take each task on until we get to those big ideas. And something like that is definitely not something I can do on my own. So I throw the seed out there into the world to see what happens. And you never know. Something might grow out of that eventually. But it's okay if it doesn't happen this year. And lots of love happening here. Oh my goodness. And Momo to Marie. Oh, Marie has a new Art Hive Zoom. Let's talk about this, folks. So Marie-Lynn has an Art Hive Zoom on Wednesdays for those who want to join. I believe it is in French. And Marie says, yes, just out of it was. Well, that's fantastic. So we do have, in Oshawa, we have a large French-speaking population, a large Métis population. We got to share that. I think for us people who are still doing the virtual Art Hive work, okay. My brain cauldron is bubbling away. Maybe there'll be an opportunity to share and cross-promote again because I'm not so good at that all the time. So again, I'll take a look at that, Marie. If you want to send me a link to it, maybe every day of the week we'll feature another Art Hive that's out there virtually. Because I think there's still such a need for it too, right? Even if folks stumble into certain things for just a few minutes at a time. Marie, what's it called? What's your virtual Art Hive Zoom called? Does it have a name? And B saying, at least all the folks I've spoken to on the phone have been very kind and helpful. Adulting on the phone. Yes, that can feel a little more frustrating sometimes, at least for myself, than adulting in person for someone. I've spent a lot of time on hold on phone calls this past year. But good on you, B. You're doing the thing. And each one of you, for those of you who are out there who are also adulting and investing that creative energy and organizing your life and reclaiming things for yourself in that way, gold star. Give yourself a lovely hug or pat on the back. Now I have this piece here, and I think what I want to do with it, yeah, I'm going to do this. I can't tell you exactly why I did that, but I want to see what happens. It was a throw up about whether I did this before I painted it or afterwards, and I'm glad that I did it afterwards. Yeah, it did feel good, Momo. I realized I haven't crunched paper in a very, very long time, and if you have paper to crunch, oh, go for it, or tear up. To do something and then tear it up or crunch it up and just have that engagement, that physical engagement with the piece, it feels so, so good. At least it did for me. And because what I'm moving on to next is very structured, I needed to have a bit of that too. Again, revisiting that idea of the mess, right? The messiness helps us get to the good place. The mess informs us about what needs to be cleaned up. If we always lived life in a very clean and tidy and organized way, well, I just don't know anyone who does that, to be honest. Not all the time. Hospitals, maybe. Yeah, but we are not clinics. All right, I'm going to set that aside and move on to the next thing. And, oh, I love that. Lisa's saying texturizing the picture. Yeah. I think there's lots of different ways of creating, aren't there? And it can feel intimidating, especially when you create something that you enjoy. And there's always this fear, I think, with us when we've done that, when there's something that we love, that the fear of what if I do this and I ruin it? But what if, I don't know, the idea of ruining something. And it's an interesting question, like, what does that mean, right? What does ruining actually mean? And B says, aha, it does. I scrunched up some paper, then shredded it, then colored the pieces to make a fun collage. B, do you have a picture of that? I would love, love, love to see that. Reminds me kind of different, there's an artist out there, like not so long, no, maybe it was a long time ago, I guess. There was a weaving I did with pieces, almost like it was replicating that idea, trying to use shredded paper or very, very thin, fine pieces of paper to weave and create art with. And there's an artist out there, I'll have to look up the name after, who has these extraordinary pieces that inspired me. And there's something so fragile and beautiful about them, but at the same time, the woven textures actually make it quite, quite strong. So much so that you can cut holes in it. You can stitch into it, weave in other things into it. But it's just that idea of, again, bringing the pieces together, allowing there to be pieces in the first place, and what it means to reconstruct or deconstruct ourselves sometimes. Yep. And the worry. So Elisa says, the worry of ruining art reminds me of this mantra I have for my life. Stop being afraid of what can go wrong and start being positive about what can go right. I love that. I really, really like that. If we spent time simply worrying about all the things that could go wrong, we'd never do anything at all, would we? That's, one of those really lovely things to remember in the day-to-day. Sometimes there's a great gift in just getting stuck in on something. And looking, I think too, on the flip side of that too, there's the idea of sort of when we evaluate ourselves, oftentimes the first place we go is, what do I need to improve upon? Or what did I do wrong? And of course, this is not a new idea. In fact, it comes from, I never really thought of it in this way until we read The Anatomy of the Soul, I think. and that was a part of the Art Hive course. But this idea of, instead of saying what went wrong or what could I do better, the question of what happens, like if we split that and say, well, what went right? What worked about this situation? And how can we help make things go right in the future? It's an interesting way to kind of retrain our brains, isn't it? Because I think we're naturally hardwired to look for the crisis. And it helps sometimes, but it doesn't always work the way we want it to or need it to in the moment. And Bridget, B says, I turned the pieces into a cardinal because that's my favorite winter bird because I was feeling red that day. Oh, lovely. Yeah, I'm not the boss of you, B, but if there's a photo, I would love to see it. And what else do we have here? Momo saying the anatomy. And B, no, before we get into that, B saying, art isn't about perfection. Art, for me at least, is a reflection of my experience. And no human being is perfect, nor should we be, because where would we grow if we were perfect? 100,000,000%, right? I think, on one hand, I really do believe that life would be quite dull if there was nothing to work towards, nothing to aspire to, nothing to clean up. And of course, it's like the storytellers in the community know, all great stories have to do with conflict and tension. And as human beings, I don't know if there'll ever be a time that we are free of conflict and tension. We can hope to shift the nature of those tensions, I think, within ourselves and with the world, so that they're less destructive, so that we can be more responsive and attuned, engaged, thoughtful about how we deal with those moments in time. But that's just we're human beings. We're story-making machines. And oftentimes stories require some kind of tension, concern, flaw, right? And Momo is saying the anatomy of peace, or is there anatomy of the soul? Maybe I should look it up. Oh, the anatomy of peace, I believe. And there's an updated version as well, I think, by the Arbinger Institute. Sort of a book that's written by committee. One of the things I loved about it was, especially around that time when I recently come out of school and I was so full up on academic kind of writing, and everything I was writing as a result sounded like a journal article. It was such a lovely, lovely book because it told things that would normally be conveyed in a journal article, but in a story format. It gave you characters to follow, people, human beings that you could relate to. And the principles within it were just explained in a very practical, down-to-earth way. Quite lovely. And a lot to do with communication and how we communicate and noticing things within ourselves and, being more mindful with how we treat other people and why we might treat other people in the way that we do. Because I really, truly believe at the end of the day, with the exceptions of trolls and people who want to cause harm, most time when harm is caused, it's because people don't necessarily know that they've caused harm. They don't know the impact of their behaviors because we accommodate for one another and we build bridges to help other people feel more comfortable, sometimes at the expense of our own emotional responses, right? All right, if you're wondering what I'm doing, by the way, I'm creating a mobile. This is one of the workshop kits we'll be giving out on Friday, and it's an activity inspired by Laura Brown, sometimes known as by LB on Instagram. And where they work, they had all these paint chips that they were throwing out or recycling, you would hope. But sometimes those big stores just end up throwing things out. So she saved all of them, and we've put together these little color swatch kits to make mobiles with. So I'm making an example for this Friday as I chat with you. Lovely. And B saying that you'll post a picture after the stream. Fantastic. And if you aren't aware of this, folks, every afternoon after our live stream here, we post kind of a show and tell post on the Facebook page where you can upload your pictures or enter links to things that are inspiring you or Perhaps you might have other kind of art that's not visual. So that could be to like a Tumblr or a SoundCloud. We love learning about what other people are creating. We love showcasing the work that you're doing. And every time that happens, people get a little window into the kind of creativity that exists in the community, whether we're talking about this community here in Durham region or the community we've created beyond this through virtual programming like this, right? It's a lovely thing. I'm going to shorten this tail. Boop. Put that aside and get to work on creating my mobile strings. And Marie's saying, yes, okay, I'll send you a link. It's called Rustart Creart. Am I saying it right? Or Creart? I don't speak French. You probably realized that as soon as you heard me try to. It's one of those things that is on my list, and it's an important list, because I should be able to speak my country's other official language. There are a lot of things I should be able to do that I don't. And as me, there we go, talking about that lack of perfection. Always learning, always growing, always being willing to try something new. And art is one of those lovely things, of course, that can go beyond the barriers of language, which is always lovely. And be saying, Mary, don't should all over yourself. Thank you for that reminder, B. As I was saying to everyone else, you see, when I encourage you to be kind to yourself, I don't always practice what I preach. And that's why I need folks in the community to keep me accountable and to remind me that I'm human. We're all human, right? And I think that's a beautiful thing. Or as my friend Lori Nancy would say sometimes, she'd say suddenly in a conversation, you be kind to my friend. I was like, oh yeah, I would never, ever, ever allow anyone to treat any of my friends that way. And yet I do that to myself all the time. Interesting, huh? Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot my crochet thread downstairs, so I'm going to have to improvise. Do I have crochet thread up here somewhere? You know what, I don't, but instead I will use some embroidery thread that I do have. What do I want here? Ooh, maybe I'll do this. Yes, okay. Oops. I'll pick you up after. Oh, hello, Shelley. How are you? Shelley, it's good to see ya. Welcome. And of course, Shelley's been doing a lot of awesome promotion work too for the community out here in Oshawa. The new market's just opened up, which is super exciting. I think it's what once was the Pickering Flea Market, which was a city near us, has now moved and relocated to Oshawa, and we have a flea market, but it also includes other vendors and some cool stuff. A lot of independent artists and makers selling their wares. And you've been doing such a lovely job promoting that and getting the word out there, Shelley. Thank you for that. Okay, so how long do I want to make this before I tie this on? Let's try that. Then I suppose I can always trim it off afterwards when I want the right length. So I'm going to use my nifty board here to figure out where the middle is to this. So it would be here. I'm going to tie this on and get started gluing my little pieces for my mobile. And again, if you've watched this live stream, it's not uncommon for me not to finish some of the projects I take on here. That's okay. I'm going to model that behavior for other folks too. Because I think sometimes with Zooms or anything that sort of resembles a workshop in any way, there is this pressure to get her done and perform and come out with this product. And I'd like to just keep encouraging people that, I'm not going to expect myself to get everything right. I never do. And I don't, so I invite you to do the same, to create art wherever you might be at today. And if it doesn't happen, if it doesn't get finished in the way you want it to, that's okay. If you need to take time to return to something, to set it aside, that's okay. And be saying, yes, not all art needs to be finished either. So perfect or finished. Although finished, not perfect, is also a great mantra to have. and art making. It's a nice little reminder. But finish needs to happen at its own pace. Oh, this glue stick. Why do I have faith in that glue stick? It fails me every time. So all of these pieces that I'm using today are cut out from paint chips, sort of recycled paint chips. And just to make sure. And what I like about this activity is that there's so many different ways you can create with it. In the sense of a mobile is a mobile is a mobile. However, what if you used your own artwork, like repurposing old artwork to create? Or like the other upcycled things in your life. I'm thinking even like a mobile with different shades of cardboard or cardstock from, shipping packages and things like that. That would be something exciting to work with. And I think sometimes we may not, it's easy just to do what we see in front of us, but you could incorporate different kinds of themes in here as well, along the lines of inside each piece, what if you sandwiched like a wish or a hope or a dream for yourself, or an intention that you wanted to help move towards realizing, or a nice word or thought about yourself. I mean, as long as we're on the topic of advocating for ourselves and being kind, that's a beautiful thing to incorporate. And Momo saying that mobile is a cool idea. Well, it's all Laura Brown by LB. You can send a shout out to Laura and say thank you for making this zine up for us, this little instruction zine. And Shelley's saying, oh, lovely. So Shelley's saying, I'm great and relaxing today. It's been busy at the Oshawa market. So if you're working there, that's fantastic. You can give us the on the ground, eyes on the ground kind of experience, bird's eye view of how things have been going on there. Seems pretty packed. And now these paint chips were going to be thrown out, but I'm sure if you went into, your hardware store and you snuck a couple from the shelf, that no one would really bother you about it either. They don't know. You might be considering, all the different paint colors for your house or for your room. And B is saying, I'm thinking a mobile out of mismatched socks that have lost their other halves. Yes. And why could, that idea? You could get three-dimensional about it in the sense you could stuff those as well and kind of have these little balls of, softness. Yeah. Lovely, lovely, lovely. There we go. And I'm just glue sticking these pieces together around the floss. And again, I'm not being too fussy with it. I know that I can come back and trim some of the pieces afterwards if I like. I am measuring it out though. I usually do not measure anything. But today, for this example, I thought, well, sometimes measuring is good. Like in baking, measuring is generally an advisable thing. But the mismatched sock idea is a really nice idea. What other art mobile ideas are out there? I saw, of course, this is the same principle as creating garlands as well. So for those of you folks who like to decorate for different seasonal things, you can take different cards or papers that are from that season and match them up and create garlands as well as mobiles. And even the felt from the woolly socks, that can be cut into shapes as well. I'm remembering someone at the studio who created a garland from fabric from offcuts from sewing and little ornaments and things like that. It was lovely. Maybe that was the Labor District. The Labor District was a really cool store that we had here. They're closed now, which is very sad. I miss them loads. But they're still out there doing good works and creating all the amazing things. You can find them online on Instagram and Twitter and such. And the Labor District, what she would do with her offcuts after she created all these fabulous garments, she'd bring them to the living room and then we would create other things with them. So hand warmers and ornaments and just lovely little things, lovely little trinkets. There we go. So this is moving a little faster than I thought it would, actually. That being said, the part that took the longest to do was the cutting of the shapes. Let's do this here. And we have another mismatched sock technique over here, which I love. Love that we're sharing these resources. Well, there you are. Momo saying, I still use my mismatched socks actually. Now I think I do it on purpose, but I love the idea of a sock mobile, especially for winter, maybe with some kind of lights. Oh, or like a miniature stocking mobile as well. You can make little, no, you know what I mean. See, look at all the ideas. And be saying, yeah, this year's gifts for pals, I'm making a bunch of funky ornaments with odd leftover fabrics in my felt stash. Yes. That's like, again, the homemade giftings. You've heard me preach about this before. I love it. There's nothing better than a homemade gift. Nothing better. I'm hoping, we'll see how it works, but with the Art Hive, the mobile Art Hive, I'm hoping that there will be opportunities for us to have like at least one pre-holiday kind of community making experience where we can make things like that, where we can have some gift making. And maybe like it'll be something like exactly like that, maybe making ornaments. And Alicia saying, will the Art Hive be doing some Christmas holiday themed art workshops coming up? Aha, look at that. Look at that. I know there's a bit of a delay, but look at that. We're all on the same page. And the answer is I'd like there to be. I would really love there to be. It's an interesting thing with holidays, and other folks, feel free to chime in about this as well. At the studio, you know, all are welcome, and that includes all faiths, all walks of life, all those beliefs, and finding space to welcome all of them. But sometimes I feel like we do prioritize certain holidays over others and certain experiences over others. And sometimes it's because of the makeup of the studio and just what bubbles up in people's enthusiasm or excitement. But it is one of those things, being able to recognize what's the common ground of this time of year. So, I mean, it could be gifts, because I'm sure there's gift traditions in many, many cultures, but it might also be something like a celebration of warmth or a celebration of light, the things that we begin to crave at this time of year that don't necessarily have anything to do with like festivals of, you know, that are connected to any faith. Like, again, nothing wrong with that. It's just sometimes I'm conscious, like it is, I think we're in the middle of Diwali right now, and I have no lived experience in Diwali, so happy Diwali to everyone. But it's also like I wouldn't necessarily know how to celebrate it beyond the little that I know of that holiday, and have it having to do with light, right? And there's so much more, obviously, that I don't know. So looking for those opportunities to find common ground and also learn about other experiences and celebrations and things like that. Those are all things that I'm excited about and would hopefully stay on top of moving forward. And Momo says, yes, it is an important conversation. I like the celebration of warmth, or some kind of celebration of winter, nature, that would hopefully include everyone. Yeah, and winter, though, there's my bias. I do not like being cold at all. That being said, there is something beautiful about seeing a tree with ice, you know, making its branches all silvery and glowy. And snow is pretty too. Okay, I like winter. I take it back. I will just wear 5 layers wherever I go. But yeah, I think finding those moments, those spaces of common ground, Snow, 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 bee. Oh, you're a snow. Bee likes the snow too. There you go, folks. So am I on my... Yeah, yeah. I get it. I get it. Winter's nice. We need winter. Winter is important. I get it. Let's see. So far... Haha! That's looking kind of cool. So... And I chose the yellow. I know yellow and pink may not necessarily be everyone's thing, but for some, I felt called to do that for some reason. I make odd choices sometimes. And Lisa asking, what is everyone's favorite season? That's a good question. So fall, absolutely. There's something about autumn that I like periods of transition. I like feeling the change. I like how the natural world informs how I move through the world and how I take care of myself. Sometimes I need that guidance. I forget about things and I become so consumed with busyness. I love how nature can remind us of, like, slow down, stop. Sometimes winter says, you're not going anywhere today. I'm going to throw you under 3 feet of snow and you're just going to have to stay inside. I like that information. I like being reminded that there's more to this world than us, right? And so seasonally, yeah, fall falls for Momo too. But Momo says, I love winter as long as I'm on the inside, looking through my window with a nice cup of hot chocolate. Yeah, yeah. We could have a hot chocolate hive. Not like it exclusively dedicated, but like maybe a hot chocolate recipe exchange, maybe. I don't know. I'm just going to cut a couple of these right now because I'm going to try and balance. Do my best to be balanced. Can't promise anything, folks. So cut a couple of these right now. Oh, come here. Yeah. I think fall and spring, I think for me are the ones. Oh, and then same Momo. So Lisa agreeing with you. Hot chocolate is a necessity for me. Or a nice warm poutine during the winter. Cheese, gravy, potatoes. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's the vegan cheese. Absolutely. But yeah, there's something, the comfort foods we have that we give ourselves, right? How, yum, yum, yum. Oh, poutine. And Momo saying, now we're talking. So I'm learning lots about our community today. So hot chocolate and poutine recipe exchange. Is that what we're talking about here? That's not a bad thing in my books. Not a bad thing at all. And I'm just going to eyeball this. Eyeball. And then zhuzh it a bit afterwards. And then, okay, B saying, okay, but consider fresh maple syrup drizzled on snow with the hot chocolate. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. That's those days. You know, we do, oh yeah, flash from the past. Prior to the pandemic, just before the pandemic, we were getting ready for an event at Purplewood's conservation area as a part of their maple syrup festival. And then the world shut down. We were literally going that weekend. And one of the activities they have there is that lovely maple syrup on snow loveliness. And I haven't had that since I was a child. Oh, and Elisa saying, yeah, I've never actually tried frozen syrup before. It's interesting. How would you describe that experience? It seems to be a Canadian, like not everyone, but like wherever there's snow and maple syrup trees, like how would you describe it? And Momo saying, Momo with a little GIF emoji thing that is looking surprised and excited, wondering perhaps. And B says, I don't know what it's called in English. Tire sur la neige, though? So we have some thumbs up there. So what would that, for the folks in our community right now who are French speakers, is there a translation that would sort of make sense with that? that? What's the closest translation on that? Is it literally syrup on snow? I remember it as being, they have the maple syrup, and sometimes it's like right out of, if you're right there during processing time, it's out of the vat and it's kind of heated up and you pour it over the cold snow. And yeah, it becomes like taffy. It sort of freezes on top of the snow. So it's not like a maple syrup popsicle or anything like that. It just kind of meets the snow in this really interesting way, the warmth of the syrup and the cold of the snow, and becomes this fantastic sensation of flavor and texture and temperature. It's really lovely. It's really, really lovely. And then, yes, Shelley says, oh, summer's Shelley's favorite season. So we'll put a pin in that because, yes, warmth, I'm with you there, Shelley. And Momo says, yes, you think the elm is taffy? So that's interesting to know, interesting to learn. And, oh, yeah, Lisa's saying it does sound nice. It sounds nice. Lovely strange traditions. Well, my hope is, of course, that this year, I don't know, like fingers crossed, that the Maple Syrup Festival will be back. And it was a fantastic event that they ran, which also acted as a fundraiser for charities like ours. And they would invite 5 different charities to host the weekends that this event was on. So essentially, me and staff and volunteers would serve pancakes. We would clean up. We would do all the things for thousands of people that would come through for the Maple Syrup Festival. Families, everyone you can possibly imagine. And we'd end the day being covered in maple syrup, have all the free pancakes we wanted, which was great. And then on top of it, it was a fundraiser for us. So a portion of the fees would go to the charity that helped out. And we've missed that for the last couple of years. And I do hope that this year, if it comes back, they'll think of us and invite us back. And I'm talking all about this is making Momo hungry. And you know what? I'm thinking maybe pancakes for dinner. Maybe pancakes for dinner. You could have sweet pancakes as well as savory pancakes. And the Maple Syrup Festival also offers gluten-free pancakes, so we can have gluten-free pancakes as well. I am making up an imaginary living room pancake festival in my head. Just add that to the list of dream big, start small. Yeah, it's a fun experience. And it's another way to experience seasons as well. It's really easy for someone like myself, and maybe Shelley, you can relate to this too. But once the cold comes, it takes a lot to get me out of the house. Even though once I'm out, usually I love it and it's beautiful and I appreciate just that, the sensory information of nature so much. But that first step of getting actually out of the house, yeah. So having a good reason to get out, like a maple syrup festival, lovely thing. Okay, so what time is it? Oh, I've got about half an hour yet left. I'm going to keep on keeping on. Now that glue stick is running out. Can I make this glue stick work? Question for the community. Oh, I forgot to put the lid on before. No wonder. Or maybe that was always there. My brain. Welcome to my brain today. It's kind of like if I wore glasses, they'd be on top of my head and I'd be saying, where are my glasses? Does anyone know how to reactivate a glue stick? I'm going to try. Let's see if I can find a piece of scrap paper here. Let's use a little bit of cardstock and see what I can do. And then maybe after this I'll paint on it and see. So I don't know if there's anything like it's still sticky. It's just not as, oh, maybe there we go. Maybe it's just like dough. It needs to be kneaded a little bit. And B says, I find if I get out more during the fall, it gets easier to keep up that during the winter. Just more layers on, double scarves maybe. Yeah. And it's because it's beautiful. We live in such a beautiful place. And, oh, did I put 2 of those on? Are they the same color? Oh, I put 2 of those on. Interesting. Not intentional. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, it's just practice. It's shaking up routines, isn't it? Shaking up routines, trying new things, being open to those new experiences. And just a note on my brain and forgetting things that are, or not seeing things right in front of my face. B says, reminds me of you looking for your coffee in the studio. Yep. All the time. Or sometimes my phone, putting it down somewhere in the space and like, where's my phone? Always losing things all the time. And luckily, just such a loving, supportive community. Knock on wood. Rarely did we had sometimes, you know, not so good things could happen from time to time in the studio space, like things getting stolen every once in a while. But more often than not, it was a place of, you know, once community members were there, and once they were seen, once they were heard. And I was just talking to Alyssa about this today, actually. That noticing of people, that relationship building creates a kind of natural accountability. It's hard to hurt someone when you know them. Hard to intentionally hurt someone anyways. So, again, I'm not sure what it's like for other art hives, but just that experience of accountability that's there. And it becomes, you don't want to play a part in hurting someone else if you can help it. And if people need something, of course, we know, like we encourage them to ask. That's part of that journey as well, right? Learning how to ask for what you need. So if you're ever in a place, and from time to time that did happen at the studio as well, if you're in a place where you do need something that you don't have, and that could be like bus tokens or lunch, money for lunch or something like that. You know, we don't always have it, but generally between people sharing space, we can find a way to rustle something up, or to there's a resource that we weren't aware of that someone can suggest. But sometimes it's hard to ask for what we need. Do I want to throw in, I think right now this is where I want to throw in a yellow maybe, just because. What kind of yellow? Super bright yellow or that? Maybe the softer yellow. So I'm just going to do a little cutout here. Just going to use one of these as a pattern and trace it on. I've been reminded today of the time our donation jug was stolen at the studio, which was in the early days, but the first year we were open, no, the second year we were open, and how the studio had been full of people, and it was, you know, it wasn't certainly because no one was looking or noticing, but we weren't noticing one another enough. And that idea of marginalization can be something that we hate as human beings, wanting to be seen and heard, or knowing that we'd like to be seen and heard and trying to move towards that in a way that feels right for us. But sometimes that experience of feeling like you've been made invisible can work in your favor as well if you want to cause harm or disrupt things. Which comes back to the conversation about when things happen in a Zoom group, please, hey, Daryl, how you doing? Let people know, right? Advocate if you can for yourselves. Don't be afraid to reach out and let someone know. Even though we're meeting virtually, don't be afraid to let someone know. Reach out online, message to say this has happened, or to name it. If we were in the space, we'd be encouraging people to name it out loud so that we could actually deal with it and work with it, learn about it, and create a better sense of safety, of accountability. But it becomes easier online to feel like you'll be more disruptive, I think. But yeah, so that marginalization works in many different ways, right? So that's one of the reasons why when we're having groups online, as well as in the space, we encourage people, like, please communicate with us. Say hi, like Daryl just did. Although if you're listening or watching today, it's okay. You can do what you're doing if you just feel like listening or watching in the background. And hello again to everyone who's joining us midstream. There's a reason in the Zoom groups why we ask people to check in and say hi, even if it's like doing a wave with an emoji. It's to know we're being seen and heard, and that, that everyone's receiving just technically what's happening, right? But it's also, it helps us understand that you are willing to contribute to the creative energy of the encounter. And that's an important thing, because sometimes people may not be there for the right reasons, or they may not know what to expect. Maybe they've experienced other things in a different way. So it's one way we can kind of coach that and model that for one another. And folks, let me know if this is freezing as well. Facebook has been doing some interesting things to us in the live streams. So if we are glitching up a little bit, please let me know. What can I do here? Yeah, let's try that. No. Here we go again for the brain. Or what if we do this instead? Yeah, I think I'm feeling like that. And Momo saying, we are in the Art Hive for the purpose of making community, after all. Also art, but definitely community, Momo says. And that's, that's it, really. And so how we contribute, it might look different. There might be days online, there are folks in the community who can't make art in the same way they did in the physical space. So there's the creative conversation and the inspiration sharing, the resource sharing. But communication is a creative endeavor. And especially during this time when it's become something really precious, right? Did I want to do that one? Is that the right one? Ha-ha! No. I don't know why I'm keeping myself to this interesting and strict color code, but I am. But yeah, so there's those guidelines. There's a reason why they're there. And a lot of the times it's for safety as well. And Bree says, just in regard to, oh, good. So it's all good on Bee's end. Hope everyone else is seeing the stream loud and clear. That's good to know. Thank you. It's always good to check in every once in a while. Let's see. There we go. And thank you for making this with me, folks, because now I have, something to share. I'd like to have examples of what we're making when we go out there in the community. So this is a nice little example that we can give to folks. There we are. There we have it. Okay. There we go. And again, it's always nice to know what people are working on. So speaking of creativity and community, if you'd like to share what you're working on these days, it doesn't necessarily have to be right now, because maybe you're doing something different. Maybe you're just jumping in to be inspired or to stay connected. But if you are working on something, I'd love to hear what it is. There we go. Is that what I wanted? Completely, yeah, interesting. The fabulousness of color. Hey, Carlos! Welcome, how you doing? Carlos saying, howdy y'all, good to see y'all here. Ooh, liking this art, Mary, like a colorful beehive hexathon in the best possible way. Oh, Carlos. How, I love that. How well put. This actually is what we'll be making, one of the things we'll be offering and sharing with folks in the community this Friday at Trent University Durham. We have all these kits with paint chips. Again, shout out to Buy LB, Laura Brown, for collecting these paint chips from where she works. They were going to throw them in the trash, but instead she took all of them, and then her and Emily spent a long time, I think, bundling colors together so that we could put them into kits. So I knew I wanted this to be one of the first workshop kits we offered when we went out there, just to honor and thank her and Emily both for that contribution. Volunteering and things like that comes in so many interesting, appears in so many interesting ways. Let's see. We're really lucky. We have such a fabulous, supportive community. And they think of us. They think of us when we're not even around. Especially when it comes to supply donations. That's something nice. That's something special in my book. I have this. Yeah, so what are you working on out there, folks? What are you working on? Or what are you wanting to work on? If times are busy and there's a lot going on, is there something that you're excited to get back to when you have the time? Or do you have plans for something lovely? Like Bee making those lovely ornaments out of felt and repurposed fabric and things like that. I think sometimes when I'm super busy, the thing that keeps me going the most is those creative dreams. I know I can't, there's sometimes we got to dedicate our time to other things, but it's kind of like having a little oasis, a little creative oasis waiting for you whenever you have that time to sit down and dedicate to it. Let's see what we got here. How does that look, folks? Yeah? I think it's kind of fun. And on the note from before, too, I was just thinking about that piece that I made earlier. Like, what if I pressed this and then cut it out and made a mobile with this? That could be something interesting, too, right? Again, all those orphaned pieces of art, maybe things you make for process. What can we do with them? Maybe we can reintegrate them into other things. All right, so far, so good. Can I do it? No, only 10 minutes left, but you know what? We'll see what we can do. Let's see. There we go. Add another string on. Folks, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And again, another hello to folks who might be watching once it's archived. You matter too. You're a part of our community as well. And I know not everyone can stay for the whole hour and a half. I know some folks like watching this when it's been put up on YouTube later. Because you know what? Then you can kind of put it on a higher speed and it doesn't take an hour and a half. I sound a little bit like a chipmunk, but it's kind of fun to watch sometimes. But hello to you too. And I am hoping that everyone's doing okay. I'm hoping that wherever you might be, that you're finding time for yourself, to take care of yourself, to tend to those parts of yourself that need and want tending to. And maybe that's making art. I think taking time to create or be creative in any way is always nourishing. It's like having a nice meal. Or that nice mug of hot chocolate, as we were talking earlier. What was it again? Hot chocolate, poutine, and maple syrup on snow. All delicious things. I would have that. I would have that all of it at once. One plate. Yeah, why not? But wherever you are, I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're able to take care of yourself. And if right now isn't the time, if things are busy, like they are feeling for me these days, it's okay. It's okay to pencil it in later on. We can't always do what we want to do when we want to do it. But give yourself a little gift and pencil in some time. Even if it's half an hour or 5 minutes, sometime when you can. Or even just to go outside for a little bit and look at the sky. Oh, lovely. B says, I'm in a better space both physically and emotionally. Living with artists is the best. Especially the 6-year-old artist. Oh, B, I can only imagine how awesome that is. And you're absolutely right. I think there's something about living with someone who understands the creativity, understands the weirdness of life. And I like to think most artists do, or people who allow themselves to be artists, even if you don't choose to do it professionally. This was something I was talking about. Who was I talking to about this recently? Just recently. Maybe it was with it was with the live stream chat, the muralist, the artist who's studying ecology and conservation, Stacy Kinder. There we go. Yeah, there's a lovely thing, people who embrace their creativity, whether you do it professionally or full-time or part-time or as a hobby or as your life's, you're dedicated to it for life. We understand the weirdness of things. I think we're curious about the weirdness of things. We're not going to shy away from embracing it, exploring it, learning how to cope with it. I think such a powerful part of one's skill set to be able to tolerate the weirdness or even enjoy the weirdness. And that'll look like a lot of different things, of course, on any given day. Let's see, will this be right? We're going to find out. We're going to find out. But I think it's a bit of a superpower. And be saying, yeah, I think we're enjoying the weirdness of life. I mean, we don't really have a lot of options when it comes to that, right? And I think being in a place where if you can enjoy the weirdness, and if nothing else, just to say, it's weird, just to acknowledge that is something, right? If that's somewhere you can be. You're safe enough to do that, strong enough to be able to do that. If everyone's strong enough, that's the wrong word to use. I'm going to correct myself there. I feel like, oh, I know what happened. Ha ha ha, that's what happened. I'm stealing you. I'm going to do a little repair here. Yeah, being able to acknowledge the weirdness is a step closer to being able to either embrace what's working about the weirdness, or perhaps to identify what you want to change about the weirdness and create another way forward. And that has something to do with, I guess, what was another thing that was near the top of the live stream about feelings and noticing your feelings and, what it's like sometimes to just have too many darn feelings. There might be only so much we can do. But it starts with knowing that we can notice them, I think. We have the capacity. And there's a kindness we do to ourselves when we give ourselves that time. Even if it's just enough noticing the feelings so we say, I got to change. I got to do something else so I can have different feelings. And Carlos saying, weirdness is a beautiful flexibility to the abnormal changes within life's ever-flowing flowiness, as Carlos says. Weirdness is a brilliant and wonderful and fluid thing. I love folks that embrace that weirdness or sit with it even. Carlos! Oh, yes. Yeah, and it's not an easy thing. I think it takes a lot of practice. I think it does. If it's not something that you've had to learn, not something that you've been taught or seen modeled around you, it can feel weird to feel the weirdness. It can feel weird to become friends with the weirdness. Right? So true. Oh my gosh. Yeah. There is a kind of magic in being able to make friends with the weirdness. And weird is contextual as well, right? I mean, I feel that. Does anyone else feel that? That sense of what's weird to me may not be weird to you. You might be like, it just might be something completely different. Weird shifts and changes. You're right, Carlos. It's fluid. And for sure, be saying, yeah, it changes with whatever situation you're in, whatever you're bringing into that situation, the other people who might be around you. If you're weird and you're with other weirdos, wonderful weirdos, then you're not so weird after all. I think every one of us probably has had that experience of feeling from time to time like we're the only weirdo in the room. And that can be an interesting ride. Not always a comfortable one. But I like to think that if we own our own weirdness, it becomes a little bit like a superpower in that way too. And maybe even infectious in a positive way. And Elisa's saying, yep, I feel that contextual aspect to weirdness. Yeah. But I like to think also that every time we own that weirdness in ourselves, even if it's become uncomfortable, if for the moment, let's say we're in the room with lots of people who just are not getting us, who are not responding to us or even acknowledging us, or perhaps I've been in situations where people have just outright told me that I'm weird and I don't necessarily belong there. And because I'm stubborn, that kind of makes me double down on the weirdness, if that makes any sense. But usually, I do that for lots of reasons. One, because I don't mind looking completely silly and foolish, and it's within reason. Not weirdness, hopefully not weirdness to hurt or to marginalize other people. Weirdness for my own comfort. Weirdness to own who I am and to create comfort for me when there's none offered or none seemingly available. That kind of thing, right? But I do it because you never know who might be there who might also be hiding their weirdness, feeling like they can't own it or reveal it. I hope and I imagine always that there's someone else there. There's always got to be someone else there. Like you, like me, like any one of us, right? If we can find that loveliness within ourselves, the kind of courage to own and advocate for ourselves, even if it's through being weird, it can be really beautiful. And Carlos says, agreed. So, okay, this is good to know, folks. Thank you. 20 years ago, Carlos says, I was called weird for liking Pokemon, comics, and Marvel heroes. Now it's changed to being kind of cool, which is weird in itself. So I think weirdness is fluid, for sure, but also a cultural and social piece. Yes, absolutely. That's why I think it's important for us to identify and own our weirdness rather than having the world dictate what is or isn't weird, if that makes sense. Makes sense to me. Absolutely. And be saying, yeah, I don't mind breaking a social norm or two as long as it's not hurting anyone. Isn't that how change is made as well? Those folks who are so loving of themselves that they refuse to not be someone else for someone else's comfort or security or sense of ownership or power of, whatever's keeping the status quo in that world, if that makes sense. It's a lovely example of rupture in a way that's positive and potentially liberating for other folks who may feel like they've had to hide or couldn't be themselves, right? And Carlos saying, display thy weirdness, if safe, and weirdness of the world, unite. Carlos, I think you've just created another t-shirt, potentially / sticker set there. B, what do you think? I feel like that's something, along with the public crying collective, I think display thy weirdness, if safe, and weirdness of the world unite. I have a very iconic image, and again, like my own background is rooted in kind of not very good for me, the sort of evangelical places of religion, not really a part of it anymore. But the theater of it, of course, has stayed with me. And I'm kind of seeing this, although I'm seeing like kind of an icon along kind of a Roman Catholic kind of stained glass window, sort of like Sarah LaRoque does, or Sarah Tahane, with Carlos, and kind of like robes of some kind in a nerdy kind of wonderful way. Just sort of maybe clutching an action figure. I'm not sure. Who knows? But I think there's something there. I'm seeing something iconic. And maybe this is something my brain is bubbling away again. Maybe what we need is a kind of deck of community Pokemon cards with characters from the community where all of us we become cards that we can collect and trade. Is that too weird? Have I just crossed a strange line there? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Are we all going to... Carlos needs a cape in there. Absolutely. And B says that B's in. Fantastic. We'll do this. Watch out, folks. Next stop. Art Hive action. Art Hive decks. Collector decks. We'll figure it out. And Carlos, I just had that image. I hope you don't mind me using you as an example, because B, I can also see something there with you as well. The image coming through. Living Room Community Art Studio trading cards. Not the strangest thing. Huh. See? Earlier I was talking about there's never a shortage of ideas. Oh, that's another one. That's another. As far as ambitious goes, it's sort of ambitious, but it's not. I think it's doable. Huh. Yeah, I'll let it float around in my brain stew, and we'll see what happens. And of course, if you're out there and you feel like the need to illustrate one of our community members as a trading card, please feel free. And Carlos saying a cape, what escape aids will ensue? What escapades will ensue from that? Oh. Thank you, Carlos. What's happening here? Did I not glue that on? Oh, there it is. There it is meant to be. Oh. Folks, thank you so much. I think we are nearing slowly the end of today's pop-up art studio. As always, a pleasure connecting and conversing with you. And I hope for those folks who are at home and working on things in their own way, or listening or watching, that this has been interesting for you, that this has been fun, enjoyable in some way, that we've helped spark some images, some ideas, some creative impulses in you. The show and tell post will go up after the live stream. I think usually I try and get it up there before 4 o'clock, depending on how demanding Alice is, my dog, with her walk. But feel free to post what you're working on or what you're thinking about working on, any links or groups. So you Art Hive folks, if you want to post your groups in that show and tell post, please feel free. Let's spread the word about all the other virtual Art Hive awesomeness that's going on out there that people can contribute to and participate in. Because there's still so much amazing stuff going on out there. And B saying, oh, excellent. As far as the trading cards go, I can see myself as a plaid-robed figure in Catholic, iconography style, or, a la Alphonse, is it Mucha? Is that how we pronounce that name? I know exactly what you're talking about. Is that kind of the Belle Epoque, swirly, thick, beautiful illustrated lines? Yeah. Clutching a sketchbook in one arm and hoisting a cat in the other. Yes. Oh, now I really want these to happen. I really want to have trading cards. Completely, entirely selfish. This is how a lot of projects happen at the Living Room, when, especially the last 2 years, when I haven't been surrounded by community in the same way. It's really just sometimes what's fun. And when things like that come along, oh my goodness. And Momo saying, oh, hello to Alice the dog. And yes, I will post links to the CSS Creative Writing Roundtable tomorrow on Zoom at 2:30. So folks, again, just a reminder, the Creative Writing Roundtable is happening online. Is it Zoom or on Facebook? There's an event for it. You can check it out. It's through the Creative Engage Living Lab. Is that who it's through? But it looks like it's going to be a beautiful event. And if you're doing the writing Zoom that we have in the morning, there's still time to do that, to warm up with that, and then hop on over to this workshop in the afternoon. It looks like it's going to be extraordinary. I won't be able to make it. I'll be at Trend, but beautiful. It'll be, so Momo says a Zoom group, so you can connect with other people and listen and learn and share, and just another opportunity to recognize the resources that are out there in community, and also to see how other creative communities work. And again, this is something I preach, but don't necessarily practice as much as I want to. This Art Hive and this virtual experience, the different kinds of things we've experienced together and created together are awesome. But there's always an opportunity to experience something else and to see, what are other people doing in other cities. Oh my goodness, look at me going past the time. But yes, check it out if you can. That's Create Engage Living Lab, the Creative Engage Living Lab. I'll get it one of these days, Momo. I'll get it. But thank you everyone for joining us. Let's have a little close-up just to see. I don't know what it'll look like in a close-up, but it's always nice to have that there. Ooh. Woohoo! Little mobile action. And look at me getting it all tangled up. So that's kind of fun. That was super fun, and it was kind of nice having something that was a little more constructive and practical to do. I like it. Yeah. Fun, fun, fun. And let's see if I hold it up here. That might be good. Oh, awesome. Thanks, folks, for joining me today. Carlos says, love this piece. Oh, Mama, look at the love. That's lovely. Folks, I don't know where I'd be without you. I mean, it's almost been 2 years we've been hanging out like this. And again, one of the things I love about Art Hives is that we're all a part of this community. We bring different skills and expertise even. But it's just really wonderful to come to a space, to share space with other folks in this place where we can be with one another in such an honest and hopefully authentic way. And I'm hoping for folks out there who might be dipping their toes in the water, learning a little bit what it's like, I hope that you're experiencing this too, even if you're not in a place where you feel like you can, participate in the chat. Your energy is still appreciated. And if there are things that you want or need that we're not able to give you right now, or you're not seeing coming from us, send us an email and let me know, and we'll see what we can do. And if we're not able to meet those needs right now, there might be another Art Hive out there that can. So never be afraid to reach out and ask. When in doubt, ask. And I think that's it for me, folks. Thank you for supporting and caring for my weird. I hope you can do the same for your own. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And as always, until we can connect and create with one another again in person, I look forward to creating and connecting with you right here online. Thanks, folks. Have a wonderful day. Bye.